Hi guys, in this video I want to show you Phoenix, the web framework without Ecto and Brunch. So we'll just take a look at the essentials without using the database or Brunch and any JavaScript or CSS. So let's get started. To create a Phoenix app without Ecto and Brunch, you need to run mix Phoenix new with no Ecto and no Brunch flags. So here I've already done that. Now if we cd into that application and open up an editor, I want to start a server now, so mix Phoenix server is the command for that. And once the server is compiled and once the app is compiled and running, we should be able to see this home page. So I even want to remove the HTML and just use the bare minimum. So we'll you know what, let's create a Git repository here and make a commit. And now what I want to do is remove the whole of layout. And so now let's take a look at the page. The page doesn't show us anything because there's nothing in our layout. So the way the request flows through the app is the Phoenix, the web server, as soon as it gets a request, it hits the routes and it goes through all these plugs, which we'll look at later. But it hits the routes and it finds a matching route, which in this case is on line number 19, and it then renders this controller's action. So if we take a look at this, it says it's the page controller's index action. So that's what it's going to do. It's going to go to the page controller's index action, page controller's index action, which gets two parameters, two arguments: a connection which has all the required details from the request, and a params map, which is a map containing the input parameters from the query string and from the forms and so on. And if we see, what it's doing is it's rendering a template. So let's actually not do that. So the simplest thing to do here is render some text. So I'll say text hello Phoenix, and we need to pass it a connection and some string. So now if I refresh this page, it says hello Phoenix. So that's good. Now what I want to do is create an application which works as a to-do list for me, and I want this application to be able to first create a task and list all the tasks and mark a task is complete, and finally delete a task. So these are the things I want to do, and maybe mark a task as incomplete. So these are the things I want to do. So let's get started. So remember, we said we are not going to use any database. What I'm thinking is we'll just use some flat files, some text files to store our data. That way we don't get bogged down into the database details, right? Because everyone knows how to create a flat file, a text file. So let's see. I want a controller which can show me a form which allows me to enter a title and saves that task. So for that, we'll need a controller called a task controller. And the name of the file is task_controller ex. And a controller is nothing but a module which has a using statement. So here we need to put the prefix of the app. So what's the name of the app? It's to do. So to do dot task controller, and then to do dot web. This is a controller. So all this guy does is, when you have a use to do web controller, all this guy does is it calls this using method right here. And here we have an apply module which command, which statement. So all it does is it runs, it calls a method passed as which. So here if you see, we are passing controller as the which here. So what it's doing is it's calling the apply method, which in turn will call a method called controller in this module. So if you look at the controller, all it's doing is it's inserting this chunk of code right where we have this. So this gets transformed into these 3 lines. So we can instead of doing that, we can actually write these 3 lines. We can use the Phoenix controller and import the route helpers and import the get text. And if you don't need these, I mean, these are really helpers. These are route helpers, and this is some internationalization stuff. So if you don't really need this, we can just say use Phoenix controller. So anyway, that's just a quick background into what's going on there. And so what I want is, I want to show a new page where a user can enter some task information. So I'll create an action called new, and this guy is going to just for now say enter your task info, right? So if we go to task new, I want this to show up. Now obviously it doesn't, because we haven't configured the routes properly. So if we go to the router, and what we need to do here is we need to say get /to-do/new should be sent to the task controller and the new action, right? So now this should work, but it doesn't. No route task new. Okay, so here this should be task new, and if you refresh the page, it says enter your task info, which is good, but since this is a text response, we can't really have a form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return an HTML response. So this is an HTML response, and now we can have a form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use multi-line string and put our code right here. So just make it a doc type HTML. So this is an HTML5 page, and we need a form, and we need an input whose type is text, whose name is title. So we just want an input with the name title, right? And let's even put a placeholder, enter your task info, right? So that's nice. As soon as we hit enter, I want this task to be saved, or we can even add a input button here. So we'll call it save. So now, as soon as you enter my first task and hit the save button, I want this to go ahead and save the task. And the other thing we want to do is we want to send it to another action. So I'm going to use method as post and action as slash task, right? Slash task should do it. So when this form is submitted, I wanted to send the user, I wanted to send a post request to the task path. So let's see. When I do this, it says no route for slash task post, which is good, right? Because we don't have a route for that. So let's create that one. And we're going to say this should go to the create action, as the convention says. So we are going to create a new action with the name create. And here we should actually create the task and redirect the user to the home page. So let's do that. So I'm going to submit this once again, and if you see, it says invalid cross-site invalid sysref token. So one thing Phoenix gives us is it gives us a plug called protect from forgery, which inserts a token in the form and verifies that token when a form is submitted. So for now, this is not a good idea, but for now, we'll just uncomment that and make that request again. And if you see it, it's going back to the home page. So that's good. Now, to actually save this task, what we can do is, I want to save this in a flat file in the data folder. So we have a data folder. I want to save it there. So what we can do is we can use file.write. Yeah. So the file.write method, if you take a look at it, it takes the path and the content. So the file.write path and content is going to be, it's going to be title, right? So we gave the name of the input as title. So I'm going to extract that by using pattern matching into a variable called title. And now we are writing that into a file called, let's see. So what we want to do is we want to write it to a file, and path is going to be path.join the current directory location. And if you look at this, web controller. So we want to go 2 levels up and then go to data. And also I want to insert a unique token, string token, so that we have, well, we can actually use the title to create the file name. So I'm just going to use the title, right? And we'll, yeah, that should do it, right? So we have that path, and we want to store it at that path. Looks good, right? So I'm going to go to task, new, and awesome task, and this looks good. If you go to the data folder and refresh it, we have a file with the name awesome task. There is a space in there, and that's not, I mean, on some file systems it causes issues. So we can probably remove the spaces. So what we can do is we can use title string dot replace. So we want to replace everything which is not okay. So before doing that, I want to pass it through string dot downcase, so that we downcase it first. So I want to replace anything which is not from A to Z or 0 to 9. So the way we do it is, so what we're saying here is, if it is not any of these characters, we're going to replace it with an empty string. So now, if I go to task new and enter this awesome task, it should create a file with a Saner file name. So if you see, it says this awesome task without those funky symbols. So this is good. We've made progress. So let's go back to our to-do list and see what's pending. We want to be able to list all the tasks now. So the way we do that is we need another action for that. So create an index action, and we probably want to ignore the parameters from this, and then we get all the tasks. So to get all the tasks, what we need is so let's open up an IEX session real quick and see if we have a path.blob. We have a directory. Okay, so elixir blob file list, let's take a look at path, see if that has anything. So path.wildcard takes a glob and it returns a list of matches. So that's what we are looking for. So we're looking for a path.wildcard, and we'll look at something in the data folder. So yeah, that does it. So what we want to do here is we want to get a path.wildcard base path is path. So we'll get this guy from here. So we can actually say data path is this, and we can use that. So path.wildcard data path /start. So what we are doing here is we are getting all the files present in our data directory. And for starters, let's just inspect those files. So tasks. So we're just inspecting those files. Now if I go to /tasks, I should be able to see all the tasks, but we don't have that because there's a problem with our task controller line number 9. Okay, it needs a connection. Now it says there's no route. Obviously we need to define the route. And in the routes we need get task So here we see we have two files, which is good, right? So Now what we want is we want these files, and what we want to do is we want to loop over these files. For f in task files, what we want to do is we want to read the data from these files, and we can, yeah, so this should give us a list of tasks, and now we can use that to convert it into HTML. So we have file.read and HTML, and doc type HTML, tasks HTML. Right, so that should do it. So there's a problem here. On line number 10, so we forgot the connection once again. And now we have a list of tasks, but it is concatenated like a single task. So what we want instead is we want to make this a list, and we'll wrap this with an ordered list. Awesome. So now we have a list of tasks, and we can even add a link to take us to the new task page. And if we go there and say change the phone, now this guy is actually sending us to the home page, and what we can do is we can ask this guy to send us to the task page, and then if we go to task, say new task, get a good keyboard, you see we have the task added to our list. So without using templates or Ecto or JavaScript or Brunch or CSS, we have a functional app. Now this isn't supposed to I'm not saying this is how you should do it. This is just for learning purposes, just to show you how things work without getting bogged down into details about templates, Brunch, and how everything else works. So we looked at routes, and so now one last thing I want to do is clean up this mess, right? So I'm quickly going to do it. So instead of creating these routes manually, we can instead say get resources /task. This will give us 8 routes, one for get index, one for get new, one for post to create, post/task to create the task, and one for edit, update, and delete. So that is a very helpful thing. And the other thing we should do is use actual templates. So we can go to our templates and the layout page, and put our common stuff here, right? Doc HTML5, yeah, doc type HTML, and you can have your new task button on the top there, right? And have a heading, say task manager, right? So this is the layout. Now the layout just renders the common stuff, So now if we change the index in tasks to use the layout, the way we do that is we say render the index.html template, right? So now if we do that, if you go to task slash, it says task manager. So it's not rendering anything from the template because we don't even have a template. So we need to create a template here first. But still, index.html EEX. So that's for a embedded Elixir template, right? So list of all tasks. So now that we've done it, we still aren't able to see that template because in the layout we don't have a render block to render the actual inner template. The way you do that is you use the view module and the view so the view module, the view template, I think, and the assigns. So now if we refresh this, it's also complaining about the existence of a view. So this is a template. We even need a task view. So let's create that. And this is the to-do task view. And I'll say to-do dot web import the stuff for a view. So now it says list all tasks. So it's showing our heading. So that's that. And finally, we need to send it a list of all the tasks. So here, the list of tasks is really a bunch of strings, right? So this is an array of strings. So let's remove the surrounding LIs. Just read those files and send them just like that. So we are sending the tasks. Now whatever you add after the view name in the third argument, these will be added to a collection of a collection in the connection called assigns. So the way you can access it easily is using the @ prefix. So if you say @tasks, you get access to the key whose name is tasks. So we get that, and we can use a for loop to loop over all the tasks and just render them task. And we'll put a li and surrounding ordered list. So yeah, we need to prefix this with @. So now we have a nice list of tasks without resorting to HTML and controllers. And we can do the same for the new view. So we'll create a file called web templates task new, and in here just paste this and get rid of this. So instead of index.html or new.html, you can even pass a symbol like :new, right? I mean that the new symbol. So now this is going to try and find new.html template and render it. So now if you go to new task, it shows the form properly. And finally, instead of using instead of having just the raw HTML form, if you use the form for, is it the form for? I forget. Anyway, so form for takes a connection and it takes a path, and it also needs you to define a prefix. So here we'll say the prefix is task, and finally takes a function callback where it gives you a form builder. So we can get this F, which is a form builder, and create our input fields. So to get text input, you can just say text input F with a name title, and we'll even add the placeholder. And what else do we have? So the input button can just be the input button. Now if you refresh this, you'll see it now has the form action, right? And method is post. And in addition to that, it has a sysref token, which is gonna help you your site from cross-site request forgery attacks. So now we can go to our router and uncomment our protect from forgery and make our app secure again. So alright, so here another thing this guy does is when you add in the form, alright, let's see, where is our new view? So this is the new view, and the form we say this is a text input with a name title, and the form is named task. So what it does is it gives the input a name of task title. So the way you extract this is you get a map containing a task key, which then contains another map which contains all the other keys related to that form. So if you had a body, you would have another body element in the form. So now that we fixed that, let's refresh this. So do we have unmatched? Syntax error on line number 17. So something is off here. What is that? Yeah, so we forgot a percentile. So final task, and we have that, right? So now that we've removed the cross-site request forgery attacks, one final thing to clean up this mess is create a model called task, and so this guy is to do task. So we can create def struct. So this is now we can encapsulate all the task management logic inside a task module. So this is a struct with an input field with an element called title, which is going to be a string, which will be empty by default. So that's that, and we are also going to have a method here called all, so that when the user wants all the tasks, they can just say task.all instead of this. So now we have that logic here, and even the creation logic will be moved to our form. So create with a title, and that should do it, right? I mean, obviously we need to fix a few inconsistencies here because the path may not be the exact this exact thing, but you get the idea, right? To create the task, we say task.create title, and to get all the tasks, we do that. Now our controller is very clean, and so that's it for this demo, guys. We'll take a look at other stuff later.